All right, and with that said, we are going to look to Man City's 3-0 victory over Everton. It was a straightforward win for Man City. A brace for Iikay Gundogan, who scored a very good free kick in this game. And another goal for the machine, Erling Haaland, who is really starting to make the Premier League look like a farmers' league.
Yeah,
And with this victory, they charge again to the Premier League. I saw some of this game, and Everton were basically just dominated. I mean, even Calvin Phillips got a run out again in this game. And Iikay Gundogan and Holland were just really the standout players. Another player who barely gets any game time and Sergio Gomez came on. So this was pretty
yeah.
much a regulatory win for City. Nothing much to write home about for me.
Same here, man. I don't think anyone ever felt like Everton was gonna win this game, even though after I believe the Gundogan free kick, Tokowski got a header and it hit the bar, but they didn't really look like anything else was gonna happen besides that response this whole game. Yeah, and definitely a regular standard win for City, and I think with this win, this was Haaland's 36th goal of the season. He's a absolute goal machine. I have to give it to I have to give it to him because earlier in the season, where in the Community Shield, I thought the Premier League might be too tough for him, but I was sadly mistaken by the response he had in the opening game of the season. And yeah, I think City are gonna go on to win the league from this point on.
With that said, you touched on Holland, but I also want to touch on another player. And that player is Iikay Gundogan. He's had a
Mm,
very good season and scored back-to-back braces in this game against Everton and against Leeds. He's been linked with a move for a free transfer to Barca because his contract expires at the end of this season. And something that was suggested by one of our listeners in Javan Torbad was that who should replace Iikay Gundogan, with the twist that we should not include Jude Bellingham. So I did it in two ways. I looked at it in two scenarios, and then I'm gonna touch on what I think will happen. So my ideal scenario for me and what I want to see happen is that if he leaves, they move Jack Grealish to central midfield because he played there for Aston Villa and he played there really well. I also think he could play there very well for City. And then they move Phil Foden to his position because I want to see Phil Foden really, really break out and play regularly. And that's not to say Phil Foden doesn't play or isn't important to Manchester City. He plays a significant amount of minutes. Pep likes him, Pep values him, and he does contribute, whether it's with assists or whether it's with goals. But he's never really been, and I wouldn't say he's ever been like a regular in the Man City team. And he's not one of those guys you look at and say, you're the first guy on the team sheet. That's usually been, in my time following Man City and seeing who they usually play, that's usually been Edison, and then it's Rodri, and then it's De Bruyne, Holland, and Jack Grealish, but that's really just for this season. So, and we all know that Foden is talented, and he's shown it and whenever he's had minutes. So I want to see him really play that 30 plus game season where he's really just starting and not starting some games, then coming off the bench, being left out for a couple of games. So I really want to see that happen. Another scenario that I was thinking of is that Iikay Gundogan was someone who would score goals, create goals, and also he's not really known for really his defensive work, but I do see some games where he does do the defensive work because there have been games.
He's quite decent at it. I'm sorry to cut you off, but he's quite decent on the defensive end. I'm not trying to say he's a manch, but he does his job fairly well there.
I've not seen much of that, but I do know he has played in the number 6 role. I know he did it for Dortmund, and I know at times he did it for City. But he strikes me more as a box-to-box guy. So if they were to buy someone, who I would go for, and Obakwe will kill me for this, and he'll be sad. I would go for them buying Martin Odegaard. He's really kicked on at Arsenal after wasting his years at Real Madrid, getting things back on track at Sociedad, and then kicking on further at Arsenal. This season he scored 15 goals from midfield, if I'm not mistaken, and he still assisted a good amount of goals. He creates chances, he scores goals, and he also does that defensive work which Pep likes. So I think if Gundogan leaves, he would be a good replacement. And look, if the money is right, I think Arsenal will accept. Now, what I think will happen personally is, because Barca want to bring Lionel Messi back, they've been very public about the fact that they want to bring Messi back.
Yeah.
Barca still have some financial problems that they have to sort out. They still have to sell players. I think that Gundogan will actually stay put. He'll sign a new deal and he'll stay, because Barca still are a mess financially, if we're honest. And if they sign Messi and don't really shift any players, because aside from Busquets, there's no other notable player that they're able to really just shift. I think Gundogan will not be able to go to Barca because aside from Messi, Barca do need other players. I think in midfield, and to be honest, I don't think they even need Gundogan, to be honest, because you have a midfield of Pedri, Gavi, and De Jong. Frank Kessié can come in. They have Sergio Roberto that can play there as well. They have this player from Valencia that they have on loan there called Nico Gonzalez, who they also rate. So I don't think they even need Iikay Gundogan. So I think Gundogan just ends up staying, getting a better deal, and enjoying more trophies at City. So those are my scenarios.
All right, let me debate on you on this, because that take I don't really agree with it. I'm gonna go from Jack Grealish, okay? Yeah, I agree with you on this. This year Jack Grealish definitely been able to earn a big role. He's played majority of the games, but where I disagree with Jack Grealish's case is him playing in a deeper role. I don't agree with that. I think his skills are best utilized on the wing. He's one of City's best players, in terms of one-on-ones. And also he's been thriving there. So I don't really see why you would want to move him to a central midfield position, especially when you have Bernardo Silva there. And there's also been reports that McAllister's been linked with a move to Manchester City as well, because he's been adamant of playing Champions League football next season. So that might be a big possibility for him. And also, I think for Foden to come back into this team, right? If you look at how they played against Everton, they played a 4-2-3-1, right? And they had Julian Alvarez just in behind Haaland. If Foden was going, if Jack Grealish was going to play anywhere, it's probably that position. But I think that position's taken, man. Because you could have Foden there, you could have Bernardo Silva there. Bernardo Silva played a big role for Monaco in central midfield. He's played in his earlier seasons for City. He also played in that central midfield position. So Pep's got options there in that position. So I don't think he'd ever think of moving Jack Grealish there. And then to come to Martin Odegaard, dude, Arsenal are not going to sell Martin Odegaard at any price. That one I will stand by. He's their captain and he's their most important player. So it's going to cost you. So the price for Martin Odegaard is going to be valued at whatever Arsenal value him at, because they don't need to sell him and they're not under pressure of selling him. Arsenal's been able to handle their finances pretty well. So for Odegaard to leave, it's going to cost you upwards, of 100 million. It might cost you 150 million. They might put that price out there just to scare any potential buyers of Odegaard, because he has a long-term contract at Arsenal. So I don't think that's a very realistic option. I think McAllister is a very realistic one, because he'll only cost them about 60 million and he's still 24 years old. So I think McAllister is a much more realistic option for City in case Gundogan does leave. But best case scenario, I think Gundogan stays for City.
To counter that, my argument is everyone has a price, TB. Everyone has a price. I mean, we've signed RVP from Arsenal. City have signed. Who have they signed? Which notable Arsenal player? There've been quite a few. There's been Adebayor that they signed.
Nasri.
You see, everyone has a price.
But
If
but
the
listen,
money is good, I'm saying, look, man,
but
if the
listen, man.
money is good,
Yeah.
if the money is good, they will sell. I would pay between 80 to 100 million for Odegaard. That's how good he's been. And in terms of Jack Grealish, I know it's two different teams, Aston Villa and Man City. And I know you said it's a deeper role, but it's not him playing as a number 6. It's more him playing as a 8
Box
or
to
a
box.
10. And he'll be able to
Yeah, I
take
don't
on
see that.
players still, which is something he can do and something he enjoys. He'll still be able to run with the ball. He'll still be able to carry it. So I think he could be able to thrive in the central midfield spot. But I do think that your Bernardo Silva shout is a good one.
Okay. Okay, to come back to Odegaard, man. This is what I gotta say, man. You gotta understand. When it came to Van Persie and Nasri, Adebayor, players, and Gil Clichy as well, and Sagna. When it came to those former Arsenal players, those guys wanted to leave. Especially Van Persie was on his last year before he went to Man United. This scenario is way different. I don't think they're not gonna sell. They're not gonna sell Odegaard, especially not for any price between 80 to 100. It's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you upwards 100, and it's gonna cost you about 150 million. And they're not gonna sell Odegaard at any price. Caicedo. We've seen the Caicedo bird from Brighton get rejected, and I believe that bird was 80 million or 83 million. I'm not too sure, but it was a very high bid from Brighton. So it's not that every team has their price. You gotta understand, if you competing and you understand what you wanna achieve, right? You're not just gonna sell players, especially players who are very important to your club. You're not just gonna sell them in jet, you know. You're gonna have to, because now you gotta go out and go look up for a player of Odegaard standard. And I don't think Arsenal will be able to find that next season. Even if Arsenal had to go in for McAllister, why would they do that and sell Odegaard and bring in McAllister? I don't think that scenario ever happens. They'd rather have Odegaard there and still bring in McAllister and other guys, maybe Declan Rice as well. So I think Arsenal's thought process for next season is to only add on to their squad. They're not gonna think of selling, especially vital players like Odegaard. He's their captain, and he's been their best performing player arguably this season. Next to Saka maybe. But yeah, I think they're gonna be priced out of that deal. And coming back to Jack Grealish, I just don't see it, man. Him playing a number 8 role for City, I don't see it. I don't see Pep thinking of playing him in that position, especially because there's other players there. You could have De Bruyne next to Rodri with Julian Alvarez at cam, or you could have De Bruyne next to Rodri with like a Foden, or even Grealish at cam. I don't think, if it's not the number 10 position or the wing position, I don't see any other role for Jack Grealish in that team, personally.
I suppose that's fair. I do see it. I genuinely think if you give him a shot in a number 8 role or a number 10, I think Jack Grealish will thrive. He's shown that he can do what Pep wants him to do. And even those in the midfield, and I'm not talking about the wide positions, they have to defend as well. Jack Grealish has shown that he can defend. So I do think in midfield he will be able to thrive. To come to Odegaard, I still stand by what I said. If the price is right, the club will sell. Yes, you could argue that he's their captain, but I don't think he's their most important player. I think that's Saka, because whenever Arsenal are chasing, what Arteta tends to do, one of the people he takes off is Odegaard. And even when he's not having a good game, for example, Arteta will still keep Bukayo Saka on for the whole 90 minutes. So I don't think Odegaard's the most important player. I think, and this is a player that, due to the injuries, has really faded into the background and memory. If he can get fit, and I'm not saying he's as good as Odegaard, and he might not ever be as good as Odegaard, but he was very highly rated at one point by a lot of Arsenal fans, and even Albakwe rated him. If he can get fit and not suffer with injuries and have a very good preseason, I think they do have someone that can do what Odegaard can do in Emile Smith-Rowe, but that's only if he gets fit. The other player that I think Arsenal have hopes for in doing some of what Odegaard does is Fabio Vieira. So I do think there is a succession plan for Odegaard if he were to leave. But
Okay.
like you, I
Yes.
don't think City will sell. I mean, Arsenal will sell, but Arsenal are better run now. So I think if Odegaard were to leave, they'll want nice money for him, 80 to 100 million.
Too
Because
little.
Arsenal have been linked with other players as well. They want to strengthen the centre backs. They want to add depth, like you said. They've been linked with Mark Gurhey to add some depth in the centre-back position because Rob Holding is not good enough for a title-challenging Arsenal team. He's not even good enough to be third choice. I think he's fourth or fifth choice at best, and that's it. They've also been linked with Wilfred Zaha on a free transfer, which I think will be a brilliant signing. Although what do you do with the other players there, because they have Trossard, you have Nketiah, and you have Zaha. How will Arteta keep them all happy? So I don't think Odegaard going will be the worst thing in the world for them. And another player who I'd argue is more important, even though I don't think he's the best CDM in the league, is Thomas Partey. Obakwe, and you know this too, has been very open about how much Arsenal at one stage struggled without Partey in the team, and now his form has gone off the boil. Another player that I think is more important than Odegaard is another player we've mentioned on today's episode in William Saliba. So I do think Odegaard is replaceable, even though he is important, but I do think he's replaceable.
Here's my counter argument on that. You mentioned Pablo Vieira and Emil Smith-Rowe, right? And you said Saka's probably Arsenal's most important player, right? Let me give you a practical example. Would you argue and say Rashford is United's best player?
Yes.
You would. Okay.
Yeah.
So in order for Rashford to even get those opportunities, right? Do you understand? You need an orchestrator from the midfield who can bring the ball up and deliver it to guys like Rashford to do their thing up top, because those guys are in charge of scoring goals, but also just being a goal threat. Let me not say scoring goals specifically, just being a goal threat. So it also just assists. But the orchestrator is the most important player on the pitch. And let me tell you something, 80 to 100 million for Odegaard doesn't make sense. If you're gonna lure Arsenal away, right? The bid has to be outrageous. It's got to be 150 million. So I don't see Smith Rowe being able to fill Odegaard's role, even with him fully fit. I don't see Pablo Vieira's been. He's been a fire. He's been a 4 out of 10 for Arsenal this whole season. He hasn't done anything notable. And coming to your replacements, to your possible replacements, right? You say if you offload Odegaard, you say that Arsenal can go out and go buy some depth, right? Arsenal's finances are in a much better position. So they're not in any position where they have to offload anyone. So they're in a position where they can actually add on to the team. They don't have to offload Odegaard to go and get like players like Mark Gay from Crystal Palace. They don't need to offload Odegaard to go get guys like Declan Rice or Moises Caicedo. They don't need to offload. So, and why would you offload your most important player? Even if he's not your best player, he's definitely your most important player, because he builds that link between the defense and going forward, right? I wouldn't say Thomas Partey is more important than him, because Thomas Partey is the destroyer of the team, meaning he's meant to destroy the opposition's play, and he's meant to give it to Odegaard so that Odegaard can orchestrate, thread the balls in through the wingers, probably get on the end of some goals, get some assists, and it's from the number 8 position specifically. He's not doing that as a 10. Emil Smith-Rowe is a number 10 and a winger. So you see, the two positions are much different between those two players. So I don't see Arsenal going out to go and find. I don't think Arsenal can go out and go find possible replacements for Odegaard unless it's Jude Bellingham. If we're being honest, if it's not that, I don't see Arsenal selling him.
Well, my counter argument, you mentioned Declan Rice. We know how much West Ham want for him. So
Yeah,
Odegaard can get you a lot of good money. And West Ham want about 150. So 80 to 100 million from Odegaard gets you the money. And I still don't think Odegaard's the most important player. As we've said, with some of the players they've lost and whose form has dipped, Odegaard hasn't always been able to carry that team out. So I think
are
they
you
can.
saying this season? Are you saying this season he didn't carry this team?
Nah, I think Saka had a better season than him. You could argue even Martinelli had a better season. And look, even Granit Xhaka, I'd go as far as to say had a better season. He's really shown, he's like, and Obako also says it this way, he's the captain without the captain's armband.
My guy, there's no Arsenal fan in the world that's gonna agree with what you're saying right now.
Alright, let's share this recording. Guys, if you agree with me, let me know in the comments. But we'll see what the fans say. TB?